weather will be over the next week. But, of course, the got their jets cooled a little bit in New York and the Bronx as the bats went cold, and sickness throughout the clubhouse, including Buck Showalter in the middle of the week. And, here come the first-place surging Cleveland Indians, fresh off another series victory over the world champion or defending world champion Kansas City Royals. This guy does television in the land of Cleve, where politicians and conventions and parades, I mean, there's been nothing going on in Cleveland, right, Mark Schwab? What's going on, man?
Unbelievable last month or so in Cleveland. The whole Cavs run, which is obviously 2 months, but then the way they finished the finals off with those last 3 wins, 1.3 million people downtown for a parade. We've never seen downtown Cleveland like that with that many people, and then to transition right into an RNC. And obviously any political convention is a big deal, but there was a lot of concern about this one especially. And it's been okay, and it's been just the next big deal for Cleveland, and good gravy. Could the Indians carry that on with a World Series win or a deep playoff run this fall?
Well, and that would be the most amazing thing, right? We make movies about Believe Land and my dear friend Ernest Biner and, the Elway Drive and all those crazy things. It's amazing how quickly that gets washed out. It really is kind of amazing how the sun has shined on Cleveland a little bit. I know the convention has not been an easy thing for the town or for the police or for the politics or for any of that. But as far as the center of the universe, boy, Cleveland certainly has had one hell of a summer so far, right?
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. And the Believe Land thing, that was really neat to kind of see all that put on national TV. And a lot of us didn't want to watch it, and I watched it, and afterwards just kind of felt like, ugh, why did I watch that? But it was pretty cool to see a tribute to Cleveland fans, which I think their dedication is pretty well known out there, and to see it get a big spot like that, and then to see it get it redone. After the Cavaliers won it, that was nice. And this whole thing actually started, I think, a couple of years ago. It was announced they were getting the RNC. LeBron announced he was coming back. At the time, we can laugh at this now, but it was a big deal that the Browns had drafted Johnny Manziel.
Let me laugh at that. I've laughed at that a few times. Let me tell you that.
And other than the Manziel thing, it's continued. It's been some good stuff going on, and obviously we'd like to continue. And it's all it's doing, I think, is showing the nation what a lot of us already knew about Cleveland. A lot of people that come here, this is a pretty nice town, and they like it here.
I like Cleveland. I flew to Cleveland in January to see Springsteen. I could have gone anywhere. I could have gone to Buffalo if I wanted to. I picked Cleveland, Mark.
Yeah, it's a great town, and I think the only there's still the people that have the stigma of the river catching on fire, which was like 50 years ago. Do we still, come on.
I have referred to that on more than one occasion, as I'm sure you're aware, Mark.
Yeah, it's a punchline. I got it. But my point is that I don't care if it's a little punchline. Some people honestly had that impression of the city for forever. It's like,
well, maybe Mike Polk or Drew Carey or Arsenio Hall or Jay Leno would have a part in that as well, right?
Yeah. And it's a good town. People get in, they see it, they check it out, they like what's going on, and it helps if you can then overthrow the negativity with the sports teams as well. And it looks like the Cavs have done that. At least got the monkey off the back of the championship run. So hopefully we can take off here a little bit with some good momentum.
Well, and obviously there's great momentum going on with the Indians, and part of that may have been sitting around and watching the Cavs win and having trouble getting to work in the middle of the parade a couple of weeks ago and all that. Apparently the Indians players really embraced the Cavaliers. Hey, when I was on the field in Foxborough 3.5 years ago, Mark, and the Ravens had just beaten the Patriots, after missing the field goal the year before and all that, and we were going to the Super Bowl, Adam Jones and Michael Phelps are running around down on the field holding up "We Are the Champion" stuff. Adam Jones was literally in the locker room after the game and said, hey, man, this is the kind of stuff that inspires me to want to win for Baltimore. So we had a little piece of that thing going on, and the Orioles have played by and large well. I know it's been a rough week, and the pitching's rough in the trading deadline, but the Indians have been around this enthusiasm, and I think there is something to watching that and wanting a little part of that for yourself and believing that it's possible for you.
Absolutely. The players of all the teams, Browns, Cavs, Indians, they will, or they would have, it's kind of been removed now with the title, but they would always say the right things as far as, what doesn't matter what happened in the past, and it doesn't matter what happened in the past, but what did matter is that they can't tell me at some point it did not come to their head that the stigma out there that Cleveland never gets it done. Not like back when the Indians blew the '07 ALCS to Boston. When they were up 3-1, was that in their head? Of course not. But maybe when it was Game 7 and it came down to one pitch here or there, it was just one somewhere in somebody's head. You can't tell me along the way with all of the teams in history that it hasn't hung over their head. I believe that at some point, maybe not
just
with
the
every
fact that they get
instance of
asked
failure,
about it hangs over your head, right? I mean, it hung over everyone's head in Cleveland until, including LeBron, right? I mean, even though he
Right.
had one, right? He had a
Yeah.
pocket full of rings, but still had one in Cleveland. All that's
Right.
changed now, but I think for the organization, it takes the air out of the tires a little bit for the Indians. This can just be a fun ride now, right?
Yeah, I think it removes the pressure, and it can be a fun ride. The pressure as far as, this town never wins. They never get one. Well, now they've seen it done. They were at the parade. They saw the way the town react. And I think the spillover to that is they've actually had some people in the building the last few homestands, which they haven't had really since the 90s. Even in 2007 when they were in first or second place all year. They had a 96-win season, had a Cy Young winner, a guy that finished fourth in the Cy Young, still had Travis Hafner, Grady Sizemore, a lot of good players. Nobody came. They were like 26th in attendance all year until a good September, I think, pushed them to about 23rd. But this year, the people have come, and I think some of that has to do with the Cavs and the good feeling that just continues. And they see the Indians are playing well. They have a big lead in the Central, and now that the Indians are getting a taste of that, as far as people just showing them up and giving them a little love, because they haven't had that before. And the Jake, if you ever get it to the playoffs, I still call it the Jake sometimes.
I call it the Jake too. Yeah,
playoffs, that building is as explosive as any in baseball. But the problem has always been getting it to the playoffs, and now hopefully they get some of that leading into the postseason, carry out the summer with good crowds, good energy, and you don't always feel like no matter what you do, there's going to be naysayers in this town throwing it in your face, and it's just great.
Mark Schwab joining us here. He is a zero-time Emmy Award-winning sports guy at Cleveland 19. We have that in common. And you can follow him out on Twitter at Mark Schwab. That's SCHWAB as well. So you don't know me well, but I've been doing this 25 years, and I was out there in 95. I was in the dugout when Hannah Storm and Bell got into it, and Peter Gammons was in the middle in 95 in the Red Sox series. I was out there in 97 for the obviously the Orioles playoff games, as well as in 96 when Alomar beat them. There's no question that once this thing gets into September, it's going to look more like Toronto did last year again, like it did back in the Joe Carter days. I have a feeling those games are going to become football games. But the one weird thing is there might not be a pennant race. I mean, we kind of had that here 2 years ago, Mark, where the Orioles never really played one meaningful game until the actual playoffs began because they had such a lead. Boy, the Indians have a lead. I don't know where Brantley is, and you can tell me more on that, but certainly they're going to go out into the market over the next 2 weeks and probably add a bat and probably add an arm, right?
Yeah, I mean, Brantley, it's funny. You hear something and you're like, okay, you're hopeful, and then you're not. And honestly, with his latest setback here, I think it's hard to, at this point, assume he's going to be back. Where I think before, even though he'd had a couple setbacks, you were thinking, this looks good. It seemed like they had located the issue with his shoulder, and you felt good about him going forward. So they may deal for a bat. The bullpen does need some work, but they're a good team. And you're right, as far as playing meaningful games, I think a lot of us thought the Indians had a chance to compete in the Central Division. I don't think any of us expected them to. I don't know if they're running away with it yet, but certainly have a chance to run away with it. They get a bullpen guy, and they solidify their late inning situation. They could run away with this thing. That rotation is very good. The offense has obviously been tremendous, and I think the naysayers on the Tribe offense, and there's always some in this town, at this point, they've got to acknowledge what's going on and just embrace that they were wrong and have some fun with this thing. Fix that 10, and they could very well run away with this and not play a meaningful game until October. And that would be nice for once, because it would just be fun to kick back and watch your team dominate for a summer.
And then wait for, I don't know, the Orioles, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays. Who knows who it's going to be at this point? Hey, for this weekend, the Orioles have seemingly once again missed sort of the cream of the crop of the rotation. The Orioles have had a strange way about them that in a 4-game series against the Yankees, they missed Tanaka, right? In a 3-game series against the Indians, they're not going to see Carrasco or Salazar, who are really sort of the buzzsaws right now. And I know Kluber was sort of going to be that guy. Hasn't been, but, hasn't been bad. I mean, we'd take him at this point. But it's the Tribe pitching that's been the difference maker here. They have the best pitchers in the American League, and I don't think anybody would have bet on that 60 days or 90 days ago.
I think people would have bet on those first 3 being pretty good, but I wouldn't have expected Bauer and Tomlin to do what they've been doing. And Josh Tomlin's a guy they've always kind of liked, but he was either battling injury or there's just always somebody else with maybe a little bit better stuff, and he was kind of that swing man, but, 5th starter, long guy, bullpen guy, will try to find a place for you. But he's been incredible. I mean, he doesn't walk anybody. And then Bauer has really put himself together after starting the year in the bullpen, which I think they did to kind of send a message to him a little bit. And as soon as they needed him as a starter, he stepped right in and been great. And he's starting to look like the guy that was the 3rd pick in the draft a few years ago. We all felt that first 3 was going to be good. I don't think any of us expected 4 and 5 to be as dominant as they have, and that's the best 1 through 5 in the American League right now. And you're right. That's the thing. You guys will miss Salazar and you'll miss Carrasco, but you still got to deal with Kluber, and the other 2 guys are no day at the beach, and that's why his team, every day they seem to have a chance to win. It's amazing.
Well, and then there's the part where the off-season acquisitions and picking the right free agents, and clearly the Francona-Napoli relationship has been incredible. And look, we know what Buck did here from a managerial standpoint. There's no doubt that the difference, and if there is a parade, can you imagine 2 parades in Cleveland in the same year? That would just be crazy. But if that were to happen, it would begin with Tito Francona saying yes to the Tribe, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think as soon as they got Tito, it legitimized the franchise. Maybe that they didn't, to some people, I think they needed to be legitimized. Maybe the others they didn't. But, I mean, there's always been naysayers in this town since the Dolan ownership took over. And I think a lot of them were confused when Francona took the job. Why would that guy want to come here?
Oh, we thought that about Buck here, believe me, man.
Yeah,
this was a far bigger mess than your mess,
And right, and they both have been great for their cities. A quick funny story for you. You talked about a second parade. A few years ago, we do a St. Patrick's Day parade here in Cleveland every year, and it's the big parade of the year. It's
Let me guess. You wear green, run down the street in a skirt, and drink beer afterward. Just a guess.
That's what people do.
Okay, I knew we do that here too.
So here's the deal. One day, a few years ago, I had a shift to kill. I'm like, I'm going to go have some fun with people at the parade, and so I started going around. I said, maybe we should have a second parade. And because this is our only parade every year. And I asked them, what would we have a second parade for?
Okay.
And this is how screwed up we are as a town. It took like 15 people for somebody to even suggest somebody winning a title because it never even occurred to us at that point. It had been, I think that might have been the 50th anniversary. Now we're at like 51 or 52, so the Cavs ended it. That's how screwed up we were, Nestor. A second parade. What would we do that for? I can't even imagine something.
Inconceivable.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I saw the pictures that day, right? So I've spent more nights with my head on a pillow in Cleveland than I care to admit. Between girls back in the day, baseball games back in the day, football every year, all concerts. I mean, I've done it all. I love Cleveland. We used to have $19 flights out of here, Mark, back in the day. So it was very easy to get in and out. Nice. I ran the basement ragged down in the flats a few times 20 years ago before Gary Miller got a hold of it. So, and I know the Cabaret, they have a very special ballet on the west side. I mean, I know all about that there. So when I saw the images that day, and I actually started sharing them on Twitter because it was just inconceivable. I know what a large plot of land it is. Hey, I was there the day that Springsteen and Obama came at the end of the Ravens-Browns game, and there were about 250,000 people in the square there as the football game ended with 80,000 people in it. So, I mean, I've seen people in downtown Cleveland, but that stretch of land and where the ballpark, it was almost like photoshopped. I couldn't believe it. And I know for people that flew in from Cleveland from all over the world to be a part of it, that's a pretty special thing. I don't know that the Indians could ever top what just happened there 8 weeks ago,
Oh, that's a good question. What could they top it? I mean, traditionally in this town,
It's a Browns town.
it's a Browns town, and baseball is second. Normally, basketball is third. Now, it's a little different now because of LeBron and everything going on. But I think if the Indians win, you might get right about that same crowd. I mean, you want to talk about just the crush of humanity that was in downtown Cleveland, and it's things you've never seen before. I was driving to work that day about 2:30. It was kind of right in between the parade wrapping up, but the rally was about to start. So there were still some people leaving because they had seen the parade. They weren't going to the rally. So even with me being there when some people were leaving, as I'm getting off the highway to work, I saw cars, and I don't mean 2 or 3. I mean like 30, 40, parked on the off-ramps of the highways because there was nowhere to park, nowhere to go downtown. People just parked on the side of the off-ramp, got out, locked their cars, left, and walked down the off-ramp to get into Cleveland to go wherever they were going to go. I mean, it looked like something you would see after like a major disaster. Like cars just had to be put somewhere. And that was just people said, I got to go, I got to get there. We can't drive. Okay, we'll just park right here. There's other people parking here. And cops didn't care. They understood the moment. It was unreal to see that kind of thing.
And that's not going on this week during the convention, that's for sure. Mark Schwab joining us here of Cleveland 19. No mess going on there from a media standpoint all week, right? Not at all.
It's been busy, but nothing horrible. It's been busy, but nothing like scary dangerous.
Well, it is amazing how Cleveland's become this center for, all summer long. And, for the Indians, for me, the centerpiece of the Indians, Lindor, right? I mean, I like watching him play. I like watching all these young players play, whether it's the Astros with Altuve and Correa. Obviously, anytime anybody talks to me about the Orioles from another place, I've been talking to New York people all week, they're talking about Machado, right? This is a golden age for young players, and the Indians not only have these young arms, they also have some special players and also some good pipeline players that we're going to be hearing about with this trading deadline coming up, right?
Yeah, the biggest impact I think they made on their franchise in the last 10 years is a move that goes completely under the radar unless you really pay attention to this stuff. And that was back, I believe, in 2008. They made a change to who was running their draft, and they removed John Mirabelli from that role, and they handed it over to a guy named Brad Grant. And Brad's first-round pick was Lonnie Chisenhall, who's been an okay player. The very next year, he drafted Jason Kipnis. He's drafted people like Cody Allen. He's drafted people like, and of course now I can't think of it.
Okay, keep going.
Francisco Lindor, Zimmerman, Frazier, a lot of these prospects we're talking about in the pipeline. He's added, and you know this, if you're not going to spend $200 million, you have to be able to draft. And even when the Indians were good in the 90s, their drafts weren't very good. That core of guys like Tomey, Manny, they were drafted late 80s, very early 90s, but their drafts from like 93, 94, 95, all the way through 2005, 2006, 7 were terrible. And they lived off that team in the 90s for a long time. They did the best pick they had in there for a while was Sabathia, who was obviously tremendous, but they lived off all those great players in the 90s. Then they made some trades to keep them afloat, but the pipeline really wasn't there. Brad Grant has restored that, and that's what's kept them viable in the minor leagues, and it's given them young options. Tyler Naquin, there you go. A guy who they thought they were really going to struggle with an outfield bat, especially when Marlon Byrd went down. Tyler Naquin's hit 14 home runs. He's batting .300. He's fast as heck. Plays pretty good defense.
And another first-round pick for them as well.
Another first-round pick. And it's funny, you start taking guys in the first round out of Texas A&M not named Johnny Manziel. You can get good players there.
The Manziel thing, it really is incredible, right? I mean, I was out there after the draft. Mike Pettin has been a dear friend of mine for a decade and a half, and I know, for Manziel, I'll always tie it to, that dude got my friend canned in Cleveland, I mean, just sort of, that dude wrecked 30 people's careers in Cleveland, right?
Yep, yeah. I like Mike Pettin, I really did. He's probably my favorite coach they had since they came back, and we'll see what goes on with Hugh. We don't really know.
Also a good man, Hugh, and they're lucky to have him, quite frankly. I mean, I'm shocked he took that gig.
Yeah, I was too. And I thought Pettin, I really liked him, and he got stuck with that knucklehead at quarterback. And you look at that draft, and I understand you can do this at about any town. You go back and look at the draft and say, here's who we should have picked. And you can always torture yourself. But that one in particular, I will never forget. The Browns picking 4th, then traded back to 8. And they ended up with 2 first-round picks and a high second-round pick, and they ended up with Justin Gilbert, who should be out of the league, Johnny Manziel, who is out of the league and should be out of the league for a long time, passing on guys like Watkins, Odell Beckham Jr., they passed on Bridgewater, they passed on Derek Carr, they passed on all these guys that at some point, if they don't go to multiple Pro Bowls, may go even to the Hall of Fame. And they completely missed the boat on areas of need, totally screwed that up, ruined the franchise, sticking Pettine with Manziel, and like you said, he got him fired. He's a coach killer. And Ray Farmer was a terrible general manager. And Mike Pettine, I think, will probably take a year or two off and go somewhere and have a pretty big impact on a team. I liked Mike Pettine a lot, and it just unfortunately didn't work out here. And I hope he does well, and I hope it obviously works out for the Browns. You want them to be viable. They need to get it together. We'll see what Hugh does.
No, we're not here to talk about the Browns, are we, Mark? That's next week's conversation, I think. Hey, we play you guys early in the year, man. We got an early bus trip out to Cleveland. We'll see the Browns and what RG3. I mean, there's no impact for the Browns, especially with the Indians on this and the convention. And I mean, nobody's even thinking about the Browns in Cleveland right now, right?
Not much. Training camp starts a week from Friday. Once that gets started, yeah, you'll start to hear a bunch. But with Cavs still on the brain and the Indians playing really well, it'll take some of the headlines away from the Browns. But this is a football town. I mean, people love the Browns when training camp's going on or during the season. We're doing multiple news hits a day on whatever it is that day. Not because there's a big story. They just want to know what the story is that day with the Browns. It's one of the best football towns on the planet, and it's going to be really something to watch if the Browns ever get it together.
Well, hey, at least the Tribe got it together. They're going to come into Baltimore where it's going to be smoking hot, triple digits every day, and certainly Sunday afternoon. They're giving away Jim Palmer throwbacks on Sunday. Boy, it's going to be like 101 degrees on Sunday here for that matchup with Kluber and Worley. Great having you on, Mark. Always a fun visit with you. I know it's been a crazy summer in Cleveland, but buckle up, man. It's going to be a pretty good fall, too, it looks like, huh?
Oh, yeah. We're just hitting my favorite part of the year, summer into fall. It'll be a good time.
Take care of yourself, Mark. Thanks for coming on, man.
You got it, Nestor. Thank you.
Mark Schwab, Cleveland 19. You can follow him out on Twitter at Mark Schwab. He spells his name with a K, and that's SCHWAB. And like myself, a 0-time Emmy Award winning. I love that. I almost want to steal that for my Twitter. 0 award-winning. Well, I have won a few awards, just none of them that have mattered. Usually like Razzies or whatever. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. Anywhere the internet is served to you, we come in crystal clear from just about anywhere in the Buy a Toyota audio vault. Download podcasts, listen when you want, how you want, where you want. We are also in the morning newspaper at 7 a.m. each and every morning. It comes to your email inbox free of charge and powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Last but not least, anything that happens, we talk about trading deadlines, moves, the Ravens, the Orioles, and training camp, and all that good stuff. It'll happen first on the WNST text service. It's where we break news. It is our best service for the 10,000 of you that are on it. You know what I'm talking about. All brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis is here on Thursday. I'm on Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, as well as our Facebook Live and our WNSTV channel on YouTube. You can subscribe. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.